So in this video, what I'm going to cover now is brand and text. So in other words, placing in logos or some kind of heading, making those clickable. Obviously, if you're doing a website, you're going to have some kind of a heading that's going to have a logo or a title. And so we need to understand how to get those into a navigation bar. You don't just want this in here. So there is all these classes, the Navbar brand. It's pretty simple, and it's a class that is used inside of Navbar at the same level as the Navbar nav links. You can use an anchor tag to create a link, or you can use a headline or other component. And of course, all these will cover, but a link or a headline. And if you do make some adjustments, or you use the headline class, then you're going to have to make some adjustments to the margins so that it aligns correctly. You can also place images, but chances are when you place the image inside here, you may have to make a few adjustments as well to your styles so that the image floats correctly. The other component is called Navbar text, and it just lets you place some text into the navigation that aligns as best as possible with the rest of the content. So what we want to open up here, make sure you do your new site if you're in Dreamweaver. And what we want to open up is the 0405 index.html. So inside your lesson 4 folder, and then that 05 lesson inside of there. And what we want, so kind of what we have here is we have this nav ID equals navbar site, and then class equals navbar dark, background is dark, and then they have the expand, so that as you close up your window here, that it does collapse for mobile devices. All right, this is also contained, it's pretty much almost exactly what we created in the other video that we just did. But this is div class equals container, div class equals navbar nav. We minused out the home, so we don't have that in there. But again, this is a navigation bar and is contained in the container, so it aligns correctly over here. And then you have your Navbar nav class here that is, again, creating this navigation system. And then you have all of your anchor links here. So what we're going to add to this is underneath your div class equals container, we're going to add another reference here, and we aren't going to put it in the navigation bar because we don't want it here. We want it above here. We want it in the container, and so we want it kind of as a heading, or you can think of it as a header. So after your div class equals container, we want to add the href, just like href. So your left caret, and then a space href equals, and then in quotes, your hashtag, just to make it a link. It's not, of course, going anywhere right at the moment until you tell it to. And then class equals, your in quotes, this is that Navbar hyphen brand. Brand. All right, so class equals hyphen, and put a space in here too. All right, so class equals Navbar brand, then end a quote, then you need your caret. And so what this is anything now that you put inside of this caret, and we're going to call it Wisdom Pet Medicine, that's what's going to appear as kind of your title or header or the name of your company, or even, you know, we can do taglines. I'll show you that in a second. But we're going to call it Wisdom Pet Medicine, and then go ahead and close that anchor. And so now you see that you have your Wisdom Pet Medicine in here. Because you have it inside of an anchor tag, it is clickable. So you can click that and go back to home base if that's what you want. But, you know, basically it now has that brand at the front. It's clickable, and it's your navigation bar there. All right, it's bigger than the other links. That's how it's going to come out. And you may want it even bigger than that, so that you know, as you see, you know, other websites, or when you've done websites maybe in the past, your header is usually kind of large so that people can see it a little more clearly. And if you want that, then, you know, you could wrap this in an H1 tag. So I could go in here and maybe even take out the A, and instead just put in an H1. So I'm doing that now. I'm just going to take that out and put in H1 for my heading there, and then close my H1 over here. And then you'll see that it's now going to be a little bit larger, and it gives a little bit more space around it. So you have also the fact that if you do that and you wrap it in an H1, then it's not going to be clickable. And then you also have some other properties that has, since the headings, these H1 headings have a built-in margin, we would need to add them and give it kind of an order, or be able to kind of zero that out, so that, you know, you had some kind of a margin here that wasn't creating this, you know, space here, and was aligning these. You could do like adding, say, an M equals 0 or something like that in order to zero out that so that it aligns correctly with the other navigation. So you can do something like that in here. I want to move on and just kind of talk about going in here and actually, you know, as I think about it here, it would probably be wise if I kind of put that in here and visually showed you. So I'm going to do an M-0, and then you can see that that jumps that up, takes away that space down here that we had. So let me show you without this what it looks like. So you see how you have all of this space right here, then up here you have it's tied up, and then it's not aligned at all to these. So that is that default margin that's built in there. So you'd want to go in and kind of maybe add that in. I'm going to put that bit back in here. So the M0, and now you see it jumps up and it's aligned here and it's aligned over here. So anyway, that's just a little trick there, I guess, or something to keep in mind, so that you can see how to correct some of these. Again, you have to use these Bootstrap properties to fix your margins and padding and so on and so forth. But for the most part, you know, it's usually just M to B, you know, all the way around, P for padding all the way around, and then you can do your others. But we'll cover that kind of when we get into styles. All right. Moving on here, what I'm going to do is kind of take that class out of there. I'm going to take it back, just going to undo that. I'm doing, you know, Command Z and getting it back to where we were here with this A, href, you know, on your class and so on. So the class equals Navbar brand, -brand, and then you have your href. And then rather than doing this Wisdom Pet right here, what I'm going to do instead is right in here, I'm going to put my cursor right after that brand, your href, and then your brand, and so on. I'm going to put in an image, so it's going to be img for your image, space src for your source, equals, and then in quotes, your images, / wisdom pet logo dot svg quote, and then we'll give it a style. So we'll kind of dig into our CSS, give it a style, equals, and then in quotes, with hyphen or colon, I'm sorry, forgetting my CSS there, 80 pixels px, and then we'll do semicolon and your quote. And then we'll give it an alt logo. Sorry guys, it looks like I didn't put my left caret here. So that's why that's all typing in there. I'm not gonna go in and correct the whole thing. I'm just gonna put it in like this. Don't forget your left caret there, which I just did. Image source equals images / wisdom pet logo dot svg quote, and then we're going to get a style equals, and then in quotes, with 80 pixels semicolon quote. I'm going to take out this wisdom pet medicine for right now, and we're going to add it a different way in a second. So right now we have this with our closing anchor. We need to add the alt tag for people with disabilities. So for the alt tag, we're going to put in here our alt equals, in quotes, logo. Now remember, this isn't typed out anywhere, so nobody sees this. This is just people with disabilities, so it'll call it out. We want a right caret, and now you'll see your logo's going to pop right in there. It's going to be at 80 pixels. And then the next thing we want to do is to go ahead and put in here our wisdom pet medicine. So wisdom space pet space medicine. All right, I made a few little errors in there, so I'll give you a second, to kind of look back up there and check and make sure that you have all of this in here. Again, that's kind of not to make any excuses, but it is that those fingers typing like that I tend to get them tangled up sometimes. And but anyway, that's what it, and then this is, once you have it typed in there, however you have it typed in there, then this should look like this. So you can stylize this, as I said before, with stylize the images using the CSS, as opposed to adding additional styles here if you want. In other words, you could do if you wanted to push this, which you probably would, and you want to push this away from your images, well, then use that image and put a padding or a margin around it or something around this particular image inside there, so that you have that, so it's not right up against here. Outside the nav bar, let's go ahead and add the following text. So instead of being down in here, if you want to put in, being back up in here, if you want to go ahead and put in, say, a tagline or something, then you can do that with a span tag. and we'll cover that in the next video.